see who's riding the lines on those league points. Who's going to be in the regional finals? Who's making it, through all of these weeks with the most points? Pick a horse, follow him.
Yeah, it's going to be a close race. It's going to be a close race. So, with that, we're going into the next match here, and this is going to be FENHYR versus JAZE. Forestcraft.
All right, Envy. Forestcraft. Yeah, tell us. What do you think about Forestcraft and Take Two?
It's a pretty obvious Shadowcraft pick. I think Forestcraft can do some stuff, but they are
some stuff?
They're not the best.
What are the
some
things?
stuff.
Oh,
okay.
What?
Right.
What do you have to say about that, Envy?
Oh, left side, 100%. Left side.
The left side's pretty strong. That's
The
what I
left
gotta say
side.
about that.
The Forestcraft. This is the whole reason to play Forestcraft is the left side.
I'm so startled by that Forestcraft pick.
I am too, actually.
We were talking about it before, Exodium and I, and one of the things that we mentioned about Forestcraft is a lot of their golds and legendaries, I feel like, are very situational. They're very good in certain cases, but they're not things that will make and break a deck in terms of just them by themselves, right? And I think that makes it very awkward, because these power picks that you might be leaning on could end up feeling very dead in Take Two.
That's true. So, Envy, talk to us. What can you do with Forestcraft and Take Two to try to win? Like, what is your strategy?
Well, you have the God card, Wood of Brambles, on the right there, which is quite literally probably the best 2-drop in the entire format, but it's a silver. So if you don't find that card, you kind of get in a situation where the rest of your cards kind of needed it, and you don't. Ooh, that left. Oh my gosh. This is looking out to be pretty good for him, honestly.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to say this Forest pick came from probably not believing in Shadowcraft as much as Forestcraft. Maybe you practice Forestcraft more and just more comfortable with it.
I haven't really seen a bad pick yet for FENHYR here in this.
Actually,
in
yes. Yeah, this is all these have been fine. It has to go right here, I would imagine. Weedman is pretty good in Take Two.
Yeah,
looks like
actually looking pretty good.
As an update, JAZE has picked Portcraft again. Everybody's
so
picking Portal.
So good. What a day!
Love it. I love
a day.
it. This is a fantastic.
It's funny
day.
because Portalcraft has like I personally believe them be a solid tier 2 or so, but they have such mixed opinions. I've had some people swear up and down they're the best faction in Take Two, and I'm just I don't see that. But I mean, if that's the results they're getting, then more power to them.
That's
right?
what we're seeing too here. I mean, if they're picking Portalcraft here in the top 8, you've got to imagine they've been picking Portalcraft on the way up too. So they're really favoring the class.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. He's about a little over halfway through his deck. Oh, the Treasures.
The best 2 cards. Look at this. Treasure map with Lion Champion. Are you kidding me?
This is definitely a happy pick.
Oh my
I'm pretty
god.
Sure.
If he passes,
he would have way too many 2-drops at that point.
That's right.
So,
Good man,
okay.
FENHYR.
Okay,
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Got to take that treasure map.
Yeah.
All right. How many Airbound Barrages and Sylvan Justices has FENHYR had access to? This is crazy.
I think actually,
Airbound
I
Barrage
don't
is
know if he
insane.
chose left or right there, but I do think Starry Elf is very important because he does have a Wood of Brambles in his deck.
That's true. All right, Envy. Outside of the good cards that we've been seeing, Wood of Brambles, Early Curve, things like that, what are the late game options for Forestcraft? Because we haven't really been seeing any. Does it really have anything that you can play into, or is it kind of just, take a curve and play with it?
Forestcraft is a faction that I think is better off going low curve and leading the end game to neutrals. I'm pretty positive. They've got a lot of really good early mid game cards like Brambles. Fire Spike Grove isn't bad. They have Elf Song. They have even Instincts Unleashed is actually a pretty good removal card. And they can just flood the board with fairies and nonsense and just have fun doing that. So their better cards are in the early mid game.
Ooh, and here you go. I don't know if any of these are late game winning cards. Queen of the Dreadsea has always been this. Could be.
Fairy Cage is actually. Fairy Cage is legit very good in Take Two.
Okay.
But notice the second Chronos there, by the way.
Yeah.
This is the third person we've seen get offered 2 Chronos.
Kronos, Zeus, these are the legendaries.
Uh-huh.
This is what you
Kronos
just gotta play
just
with.
wants to have the spotlight for a little.
All right, so give us the rundown, Envy. Low curve. What are we thinking for this Forestcraft deck? Any good?
I think it Forestcraft probably scales exponentially towards how many Road of Brambles you have. So I would say this is a level 1 forest deck. It has 1 Wood of Brambles. So it's going to depend, I think, on JAZE's draw. But Wood of Brambles is great against artifacts. So
yeah,
we'll see.
That's
it
true.
makes it very tough for the artifacts to gain maximum value. I mean, in some weird way, you can say, okay, well, at least the artifacts still get destroyed, but a lot of Runecraft's defense relies on being able to trade out the board with those things, both puppets and artifacts.
Portalcraft, my friend. Portalcraft. And what I think Envy said it clearly, favoring the early curve definitely in this deck, by all means. Like, the late game in this deck I feel like doesn't even exist. Like, that Zodiac Demon and that Queen of the Dreadsea might as well not even be cards in the deck. And the top end of the curve are those 2 Lion Champions into the Elf Queen. So I feel like if the game gets away from FENHYR, and you can back me up on this, Envy, if you'd like, or you can shut me down. If the early game does not go his way, I don't really think he has a good comeback mechanic. Like, there's no way to get back into the game.
I don't want to seem like a bully, so I'm gonna agree with that. Yeah.
Nice.
Totally.
Nice.
I want
just to be devil's advocate, I do think that the Queen of Dreadsea isn't bad at all. If you can combine it with like Lion Champion and Elf Queen, that could be a pretty devastating turn.
That's
if you
true.
can manage
Just
to
trying
get
to
there,
build a big board.
That's true. I mean, Queen of the Dreadsea, we've seen what it does in Constructed. I mean, every once in a while, it'll just pop out too much value in a single turn for an opponent to deal with, and it could very much do the same in Take 2. It's just you have to have those options in hand already.
I mean, the tempo swing from putting up a ward and healing back up is insane.
Yeah, plus you're putting a 7/7/6/6 and a 4/5 into play that grows. Yeah, that can be pretty good. You know what, Envy? Thank you for playing devil's advocate and not being a bully, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Both
a bully, never.
goals achieved.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah,
Would you imagine that? Well, Forestcraft versus Portalcraft is coming up here, and JAZE is going to see if he can defend his spot in the tournament. Envy, take some notes, because we're going to be asking you exactly what happened after Exo and I are left completely confused.
That's right. After Queen of the Dreadsea comes down and utterly destroys this game, and I'm just like, well,
Queen of the Dreadsea is pretty good, so we'll figure out what the lessons learned afterwards are, but we're going to get ready for this match here. I feel like so far we've learned Ariete. You have to include Ariete in your deck.
It's the best card in the game.
If Queen of Dreadsea wins this game, you got to include Queen of the Dreadsea. Definitely play Forestcraft and Take 2.
Yeah.
These are the lessons I'm learning right now.
Yeah. Forestcraft, honestly, that was a surprising pick to me, to take Forestcraft over Shadow specifically, because I've had a lot of success with Shadow, and I know its game plan, right? It has good mid-game options, it has good late-game options, it has tons of last word effects, which are crazy good in Take 2. Forestcraft, to be honest, I haven't really played that much of it in this form of Take 2, and before it was always just about Fairy Generation, and Fairy Generation just never felt too good. You know what I mean? So, but this is different. This is like aggro tempo forest with a little bit of Fairy Generation.
So it's going to be real big here. JAZE is going first. That means that he won't get the first evolution turn, which, I mean, when you have Icarus in hand, can be very good.
He also has Morton, okay? And you know, if he plays it and evolves it this game, I'll actually get to learn what it does. It'll be pretty good.
You've always known, Exo. It's always been with you.
Yeah. So yeah, FENHYR just is going to have an insane amount of options every single turn. Honestly, to me, it's just it's going to be, okay, we get to the mid game, he has all of these options, but they're all low cost options. Are they going to be good enough to push through what Portalcraft can present here? And I don't know. I'm still iffy about it.
I would feel much more comfortable if a Wood of Brambles comes down sometime soon. He has Sylvan Justice to give him a little bit of a boost, and that's going to be the decision that JAZE has to fight against, right? Do I swing face? But if he does, he's going to get Sylvan Justice. A Fairy's going to come down on board, and the Evlesia gets to swing again. Or I say again, but gets a swing plus its damage it did on drop.
These are always the craziest turns to me. It's not the late game. The late game is kind of like, you know, which Haymaker is better, you know, things like that. Who can create the most card advantage? In the early game, it's really just, do I trade here? Do I go face here and make them trade? In Constructed, it's very much, if you're on the play and you have the tempo, or if you're on the draw and you have the tempo, you just go face and you force your opponent to trade into you. But when you're playing Take 2, you don't really have this consistent deck. So, like, you have to make every decision just based on what you can do, and it gets really abstract. It's pretty hard to follow sometimes, even as the player in the game.
Yeah, I think JAZE is going to be fairly happy about that decision, because he really could not have held a good board if he didn't take that option, I think.
That's true. But oh man, drawing the Radiant Artifact very early as well. I like this. I like his next few turns. I think the Morton will give him a great advantage against pretty much anything the Forest Craft deck has. Might actually be the perfect class to have it against.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Especially if it gets a Happy Pig. It can get Happy Pig. Okay.
And Happy Pig, because it's banished, does not get its last word effect on your end.
I like it.
Stealing pigs, are you, JAZE?
Morton's best ability to steal pigs. I like it.
Wow, look at that fairy.
Yeah. I like this. This along with Weedman, like, I just really good early advantage. Able to push extra damage, finish off boards a little bit easier, and get fairies in hand. I like it. However, in this rotation of Take 2, there's not really too much to gain off of having extra fairies. Like, you don't have all of the payoff cards that used to exist for Forest Craft. But they are still extra cards that you do get to play.
JAZE thinking about his turns here. And his hand is pretty heavy.
He's got some card draw options. He can clear the board if he wishes. Getting a copy of a fairy doesn't really feel like that big of an upside, though. Yeah, this is a tough turn. I mean, could just Radiant Artifact to save the Evolution Orb, take out this 5/1, draw a card. It's a good option.
Yeah. And the big thing about Radiant on its last word effect is it will draw you an artifact on your turn if it is destroyed.
All right, putting that big body out there. So this is actually a tactic I want to talk about in Take 2 as well. If you think that your opponent cannot deal with the follower that you're going to evolve, you essentially dictate the pace of evolution orbs. You're saying, I'm going to force you to use an evolution orb next turn because I feel like I'm getting a little behind in that game, so I need to get those resources out of your hands as soon as possible. And that might end up being the case. However, sometimes, if you're in FENHYR's position, you might just be like, you know what, I don't care about that 5/3, and just not evolve back into it and completely, warp the state that JAZE is trying to present too. So this is where it gets super complicated in my mind.
And there is a potential for that unidentified subject to buff it itself.
That's right. That's right. Leafman is a good option this turn. This can get around to Evolution Orb or using one this turn. As a matter of fact, I think it's probably the best option to do so. It's like not going to go that way, though. Maybe just use an Evolution Orb to take care of it, or maybe not evolve at all.
We mentioned that the early game is going to be very important for FENHYR, and I think that past play point 7 is going to be the mark at which I think it's a little too late for him.
Yep. He is setting up a good Leafman board, though. I mean, the wider the board is, the harder it is to deal with the board left over, but from Leafman. So I like the position that FENHYR's setting himself in. JAZE did get that Evolution Orb that I'm assuming he really wanted that turn.
Now he's just thinking about his options here.
Almost looks like a painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, JAZE does right now. He's deep in thought.
He's very still. Goes for the artifact draw.
I like it, getting right back into this game.
It's very important. JAZE definitely identifies that he is on the slower side of the matchup.
Yep.
This song's for you.
And it looks like FENHYR. I mean, JAZE doesn't really have that good of an answer back game. Like, FENHYR doesn't have, like, any amazing cards at his disposal, but just very consistent, keep dealing damage to face. And I don't know if JAZE's going to be able to stop this.
The Weedman.
He's going to have to get some use out of that Morton eventually.
I really like FENHYR extending the value of his fairies here. And that's the synergy that we were talking about that Forest Craft really is dying for, I think, in Take 2. How can you make the most out of your fairy followers, your token followers, especially without the guaranteed synergy that you're getting in constructed play?
That's right. And honestly, I would go as far as to say is that Wood of Brambles alongside of Elf Song can really push those boards forward. Like, if we had seen an Elf Song on any turn here for FENHYR, I think the game would have just bowled over too hard for JAZE.
We'll see if JAZE can make something happen past this turn. So I do feel like it's coming to the point. Here comes the Morton.
And I really like that he's choosing this turn to clean up the board. Again, if any of these boards stuck, Leafman would have come down to, yeah, push quite a bit of damage.
FENHYR is just left with a pure-hearted scene here.
Ooh. Zodiac Demon. We talked about that one.
Mm.
It could be good, but with all of the Forestcraft cards in the deck, it's going to be hard to get too much damage out of it.
Wood of Brambles down now. That's going to be big. It's just going to let so many of FENHYR's followers punch up.
Yeah, it's going to make them really hard to trade into, and again, it's going to set up a nice board for a Leafman to push for a big amount of damage here.
Mm-hmm. And now JAZE has to think very carefully. I mean, the Weedman that he got is basically null and void for board control. Has to go face.
That's unfortunate, too. It's like he's like, all right, finally. I can get a 2-power, 2-attack follower with my Morton. Now my opponent has Wood of Brambles.
Would have almost been better to take the pure-hearted Singer.
Stop it. Can't do it. You can't do it. It costs 3
play points. Yeah.
We're never going to get it right.
We're never gonna get it right. It's so interesting because when it comes to the early game followers, the stat line is so deceiving.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and JAZE just forced to not even trade in anything FENHYR has, and he's gonna have another turn just like it.
This can be a big. I mean, depending on how aggressive FENHYR wants to get, it's a call out about what JAZE has on play point 9 to kind of swing back the board here. He knows that Brambles is going to survive JAZE's turn, and that's going to be the last turn here. Evolving a follower to take some board control is going to afford FENHYR some more face damage, but, I mean, without another Brambles that coming your way, can you risk that, right?
Oh, wow, and it looks like FENHYR is actually going to go the defensive route here. Was not expecting this.
Okay, split it in half and half.
Setting up a Lion, like MD was talking about, Lion Champion just being one of the premier cards. Why, you ask, is because post-evolution orbs, how do you bust through it without just a hard removal spell? It's very tough. Usually getting multiple cards and value out of it. And JAZE, while he does have good options, you know, to stall, he's got a Hector that he can put into play to help a little bit. He's got Staircase to draw more options if he feels like there's a better option left in his deck, but he's only sitting on 10 defense left. Very precarious situation.
Yeah, the Slant Champion is making things very difficult for him as well. And the Bramble still exists.
Yeah, that's rough. I can't even imagine. Like, we've talked about Infinite Bramble works even in constructed play and just how amazing it can be. In Take 2, unreal.
All right, goes for it. Ooh, not going to help. Because there's Brambles. Uses the discard on the artifact to try to ping a follower.
And now can't even get through the Lion Champion. And if that's the case, it's just game.
The 4 goes to the 6, makes it the 8. The Evolve will make it the 10.
Plus the Leafman.
And the Leafman.
So
oh my god.
Fantasy and JAZE get knocked out in the first round of the top 8.
FENHYR is making Forestcraft look real good too.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what?
And the Evolved Happy Pig. It's going whole hog, did you hear?
Wow, just so amazing to me. Like, Forestcraft, not even like, you know, a hesitation Forestcraft pick. It was just, you know, I'm playing Forestcraft. It's good. Taking out JAZE, one of the world's finest.
A lot of players are going to Portalcraft right now, and, you know, I think Portalcraft really has to think about what early game synergies it's looking for. I think there's a particular set of cards that you can get that make it very effective, especially off the back of very